Good morning and welcome to today's brief. I'm really elated to have today today's brief coincide with the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. A couple of things come to mind. First of all, the pictures you see behind me are of the Olympics. My father-in-law has been involved with the Olympics for almost 50 years. And he loves the Olympics and loves the fact that our country plays such an important role in the Olympics, and he loves watching the Olympics. And so to Dave Elmore, once again, shout out to you for all that you've done for not only the family, but also with the Olympics and the Olympic committees and sports in general. So pivoting into today's discussion, before we get there, I want to kind of make an Olympic push for subscribers. We're trying to increase our subscriber base. That's really important, apparently. So in addition to watching the videos, we'd encourage you to like and subscribe. Those have different meanings in social media, and I'm learning all about this in real time. I'm probably going to learn about wardrobe too, because I've heard some comments back that I seem to be wearing the same thing all the time. But the wardrobe budget's not very extensive for this August program. So in any event, the big Olympic push for subscribers commences immediately. So please subscribe. Please get others to subscribe, especially if you support and like the content. I hope you do. It's important stuff to talk about, and there really aren't a lot of places to have either short or long form discussions about these topics. They're kind of wonky and they're a little policy oriented, and I apologize for that. But for some reason, I got stuck on it, and I think I'm really committed to really untangling some of these complicated issues and seeing if we can move to a better solution. I love the fact that our nation was formed as a more perfect union, but not formed as a perfect union, which means we have an opportunity to improve. I see that happening every day. The other thing I want to do today as we get started is I want to really be grateful for the people who are in the machinery, if you will, of the nation that we serve. And what I mean by that is the people who are doing the job every single day. And for those people, I want to express some gratitude because they're the fabric of the country that makes the country great. So the people on the front lines, like healthcare workers who are dealing with not only COVID, but the new variants to COVID, dealing with vaccination issues, dealing with other healthcare issues. And of course, we have the emergency care workers, the firemen, the policemen, all of those, and countless others who work in the daily machinery of the country to keep things working and to keep us healthy and safe. Really grateful for that. And so when we see the Olympics, to some extent, that's what I think about is the great nation we live in and we have an opportunity to participate in and hopefully to make better. So one of the things I wanted to do today is briefly talk about some things that I see on the horizon. I see a couple of big things happening in the healthcare industry, which has been the subject of our discussion really since inception, in one way or another. And I want to kind of raise it to your attention just to make sure that you're aware. I think there are going to be seismic shifts in the way that healthcare is delivered over the course of the next 2 to 5 years. Why do I say that? Well, earlier this week, we talked about the Competitive Health Insurance Reform Act with Senator Steve Daines. I call it KIRA for short. And what that did was it removed the exemption from antitrust laws, federal antitrust laws that insurance companies have. That's a big deal. We've seen oligopolies form in virtually every major metropolitan area in the United States. And oligopolies tend to be bad for consumers of any product or service, and it's no different in healthcare. So we have a problem with oligopoly formation. We have the exemption from federal antitrust laws having been removed. We have an increasing drumbeat for competition across all sectors. And we have 4 major insurance companies across the nation, specifically Blue Cross Blue Shield, United, Cigna, and Aetna, collectively referred to as the BUCAs. And what we're going to see, I anticipate, is a real drastic move for increased competition in insurance. And I am hopeful that the structure of insurance itself will change. We predicted back in 2015 that as a result of the ACA, some things would occur that were unhelpful for consumers of healthcare. This is everybody. You may not think of yourself as a consumer of healthcare, but in fact you are. And the way you consume healthcare, unfortunately, is quite twisted up. You get your healthcare in part paid by your employer and in part paid by the insurance company, unless you're on Medicaid or Medicare, in which case those circumstances are different. But for the 60%, hence the term, the 60% solution of Americans who are getting their insurance through their benefits programs from their companies broadly, that is the area where we have an opportunity to make the biggest impact. And that's where consumerism is really struggling to survive. So we have to change that. And I talk about that extensively in my book, but I anticipate there's going to be a big movement to change that sooner rather than later in the marketplace of ideas, and that's going to manifest in policy and likely differences in consumer and provider or payer opportunities. So we have to get our heads around that, and we have to be intentional about it. We ought to have a goal. So I have a goal that I've expressed in the book. I have a policy recommendation in the book. So when folks say that, hey, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or a progressive or a conservative that doesn't identify with a party, doesn't really matter. The question is, do you have a plan? And do you have a plan to solve the problem rather than simply complain about the existence of the problem? So I put my plan in the book, and I hope you take a look at that. The other thing that's happening is on the provider side, we have an oligopoly forming in the form of hospital systems. The Biden administration came out recently and said, hey, we've got roughly 95% of all hospitals in one of seven systems. The American Hospital Association called his criticism, I think it was, quote, misguided, end quote. So we have a oligopoly forming on the hospital system side, and we have an oligopoly forming on the payer side. And again, we predicted this back in 2015 because we said what's going to happen is with increased government subsidies of insurance, more people are going to have insurance. That's a good thing in a sense if insurance is structured properly, but it's a bad thing if there becomes price insensitivity, which is what we've seen. Lack of price insensitivity means that prices go up because people aren't forcing competition and people aren't forcing prices to go down through negotiation. This happens when we rely on insurance companies to pay rather than paying directly out of our pocket. And we need to equip people to be able to pay out of pocket. Right now, we have a system that doesn't help people do that. So I recommend expansion of health savings accounts, for example, which are ways to get money into your health savings account without paying taxes on the money before it goes into the account or when you spend it on healthcare. That's a good idea. It was pioneered by John Goodman and passed under the Bush administration, but there's a lot more to be done there. So the other complication we have that's going to be a driver is this mix of business models. So first thing we have is the consolidation in the insurance world. Second thing we have is consolidation in the provider world. Third thing we have is mixed up business models. So what do I mean by that? Well, we've heard that over half now of all physicians are employed by hospitals. That creates a conflict of interest with regard to referrals and the treatments and protocols and a number of other things. That lack of independence causes concerns. The second thing we have is we have not only hospitals hiring doctors, the other big employer of physicians is insurance companies. I mentioned in an earlier podcast that United now has over 50,000 physicians employed by United through one of their subsidiaries. So you have an instance where you go to the doctor and you don't know if you're going to see the doctor or a representative of the insurance company or both. And that obviously creates conflicts of interest as well. So to size it up then, we have at least three major muscle groups, if you will, who are going to drive change in the healthcare industry over the course of the next 2 to 5 years, in my estimation. Again, they're consolidation on the payer side, consolidation on the provider side, and mixed up, what I call mixed up business models, where you've got an amalgam of delivery capabilities and payer capabilities all wrapped up into a single bundle. I think this is going to lead to both a great deal of change, but also a great deal of opportunity. I think we'll have an opportunity to participate in the dialogue around what that system looks like on the other side. And I think we're going to have an opportunity to, hopefully, and when I say we, I don't mean me, I mean the nation, will have an opportunity to shape what comes out of the other side. And hopefully that'll be a good thing. Hopefully what we will all drive for is more Americans having access to healthcare and more Americans being able to pay for that access to healthcare. Right now, we have something that's a little bit disjointed. We have more healthcare services available than some can pay for. In other areas, we have nothing available where there are plenty of people to pay for it. And we need to help by making these models work a little bit better to deliver services more uniformly across the country. So I hope you'll continue to join me on this journey where we take comments and we field incoming queries and questions, and we try and answer those. If you have one, please don't hesitate to either send it to me through a DM on YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or whatever, Instagram, whatever medium you prefer. But I'd love to hear from you. I'm really concerned about these issues. As you've noticed, I've spent a lot of time and resources to try and develop a conversation around them. And I really look forward to your participating in them, because one of the things that we can always be assured of is that the answer never comes from one person by themselves. It always comes best when lots of good minds come together to try and formulate a better solution than we have currently. So again, please subscribe to these podcasts. I really appreciate your support, and I look forward to speaking to you again next week. Thank you so much.
In his new book, The 60% Solution, Rethinking Healthcare, author Todd Furniss breaks down healthcare problems and solutions to free the industry to do its job. There are 5 major constraints: poor use of primary care, inconsistent accounting and incompatible IT, hidden pricing, restricted health savings accounts, and hyperregulation.